What's up guys, it's Aaron from Gear Up and welcome to another episode, and this is the Sony WH-1000XM4. No, it really is. Yes, I know it looks like the XM3, but this is the legit copy. Anyway, unless you've been living under the rock for the past couple of years, you probably heard that the older XM3 has been consistently at the top of his game. And sure, since then, Bose and Jabra and Bowers and Wilkins and Apple have come along to try to throw a monkey wrench or two into the mix, but the XM3 continues to power on. So when it came time to develop a newer version, Sony decided to just phone it in and call it a day. No, that's not true. Well, close. Well, yes. Well, here's what I think actually happened. I think Sony just said, why fix what ain't broke? In Japanese anyway, and decided on top of that to tweak and improve certain areas to keep it up with the times, as well as to quell some of the complaints that previous XM3's owners had. Ultimately, did they mess up a winning formula, or did they get the XM4 back at the top? Let's find out after these messages, guys. Let's do it! So this is the Sony WH-1000XM4. Let's talk specs first. This thing goes for $350 retail, though I got it for around $280 on sale. Now, at full retail, this thing is too high for my blood, but get this. This is a whole $200 less still than getting a brand new AirPods Max. Think about that. Now, donating all that cash to Sony gets you its venerable active noise cancellation prowess, more on that later, and the same two colorways as on the XM3s, the black as well as this one, the silver. You get the same battery life, 30 hours according to the factory with active noise cancellation on, but in real time I got an average around 31 hours, which is really in the middle of the pack for this price range nowadays. There's also Bluetooth 5.0 with SBC and AAC support. aptX was dropped this time, but is made up by Sony's LDAC. That's meant to give you the best audio clarity over Bluetooth through a high quality source. And also DSEE Extreme, that does the same thing through a low quality source. We also have the same NFC pairing capability from before on the left ear cup here, as well as the identical combo of swipe and physical controls. One of the new things added to this variant is multi-point Bluetooth connectivity and also a proximity sensor in here used for wear detection. Oh, looks like Sony finally caught up. Another new thing also is it now weighs 1 gram less than the XM3 at 254 grams. So for what it's worth, it's a little bit lighter, but really they're basically the same weight. Now, let's take a closer look at the case. And at this point, I'm wondering, did they basically use the same one as on the XM3s? Oh yes, I think they did, guys. It's like a stock surplus or something. Now, that being said, if you're unboxing a WH-1000 series headphone for the first time, seeing the case is actually quite exciting. It's really nice and compact, well made. You paid $350 for crying out loud. But otherwise, if this is your second or third one, it's almost like you're opening the same present 2 years in a row. It's the same identical look. It's kind of underwhelming. But jokes aside, this is still a really well-made storage case with thicker fabric than you'll find on the latest sound cores that try to mimic that fabric look, but this one has way more texture than it, and also it's really nice and solid as well. It has this nice smooth YKK zipper at the top with its trademark gold pull tab. There's an external stretchy pocket here that you can carry your stuff there, as well as a external carry loop. Now, when you open it up inside too, you see where the headphones lie, the same place, same orientation. You just fold it up this way, and the same Velcro partition right there where you store your cables as well as the airplane adapter. And that's really about it with the case. If you've seen the XM3s, you're basically seeing the same thing with the XM4s. Alright, let's check out the headphones, guys. So the whole device still feels really good to the touch, high-grade materials, really well put together, nice weight balance, and when I do this exaggerated twist test, there's barely a creak, but there is some subtle differences in the texture, both on the ear cup as well as the bottom of the headband right here. It's now more frictiony. In the past with the XM3s, they were more slippery, but now they have a rubberized feel that gives it the impression that it's more durable or something. Now, the design is also nearly identical. Most of us, and when they look at this, it's like, yeah, it's the same, but the keyword here is nearly identical. There is a couple of differences that I'll point out here. One is the gap between the wishbone hinge and the ear cup is now much smaller, so from the side profile, it makes it or gives it a much slimmer profile look anyway. And one side benefit to that is any sound leakages is much lesser now or more dispersed to your outside listener. Another couple of differences is the ear pads are a little bit thinner as well, narrower on this portion. They're still replaceable and a lot more cushier, more comfier. And the top padding here is a little bit ever so slightly thinner as well. On the left ear cup, you find the NFC contact surface right here, and that's really about it with the cap. There's such a huge wasted space. I wish there was some kind of touch controls utilized right here. Anyways, here's a venting port, and I think there is a microphone behind there too, and a couple more venting ports as well, one in the back and another one in the front. And down below, lining the bottom, are 3 microphone ports, 1, 2, 3, and the 3.5mm port as well. Right next to that is the power button, and right next to that is the LED status light. And right next to that is something called custom. This used to be the active noise cancellation cycle control on the XM3s. And this button does the exact same thing, but now it's customizable as well. And right above that is that customary Japanese manufacturer thing that they do for the left side. It's this little indicator nub that's really helpful for the visually impaired, as well as for those of you fishing for this in the dark. It's really easy to find out which is your left side. Now on the inside of the ear cup, you'll find the proximity sensor window and some really nice thick foam padding right there. It's really comfortable. Over on the right side is the swipe pad. So when you swipe up or down, it's volume control. When you swipe forward and backward, it's track forward and backward. And if you tap the middle, it's pause, play, or accept or reject phone calls. Now, when you cup the ear cup as well, it activates a quick attention mode. And this only happens on the right side, by the way. It basically turns on pass-through mode, which is really nice and convenient when you want to quickly talk to someone. At the bottom here is the USB-C charging port, and right next to that is the charging light. And on the business end of things, both of these have a 40mm aluminum coated liquid crystal polymer drivers, and we'll talk about how these things sound later on in the show, but basically they're really good. There's 10 D10s up here on the band just like before. Everything is really well put together. Oh, by the way, the button presses are really good quality and really consistent as well from button to button. It's really nice. So guys, if you haven't heard already, I'm trying to get to 10,000 subs and only you can get me there. So if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel by mashing and killing the button down below, and tell your friends and family about it as well. Thank you in advance for your help, guys. Now back to the program and get me to 10,000 subs. Alright guys, we're out here doing the Bluetooth distance test, and I have Stu Dre by Dr. Dre, my jam, playing on Deezer and high fidelity, and I'm gonna put the phone here at the end of my deck, and we're gonna walk around the side of the house, or the back of the house towards the side, and see when these guys start disconnecting or have some issues. Let me get out of the sun real quick, and so we're not having some exposure problems there. But anyways, there's the phone, and where I'm standing is around 25 feet away. And these XM4s, by the way, have Bluetooth 5.0, so they should last about 30 to 33 feet before we start hearing disconnects. Dang, it's so cold. My jaw is freezing. And sure, on cue, we're starting to get disconnects. I'm gonna keep walking this way until we get a complete disconnect and see how far we can last there. At this point, audio is pointless to listen to, but we're doing this just for fun. Let me try to adjust out of the sun here. And we got a full disconnect. I got a tone where it's out of range, and there you go, around 60 feet. It's pretty much dead. As you can see too, the fit of these things, they hug the skull really well. Man, my jaws, the enunciation, pardon me for not being able to say anything. I'm just freezing cold. The wind is like 40 miles an hour gusts from time to time. But anyways, these things are identical to the XM3s, and it's a good thing though. They hug the skull really well. They're compact enough. The XM3s, I tell you what, when they first came out, they were ahead of their time in terms of fit and design too. Very simple, but very compact at the same time. So these things, the XM4s, continue that tradition. So if you like the look, go for it. And yeah, let's move on to the microphone test next for phone calls. Let's do it. Alright, take number 19. I'm going to get this right yet. My face is so frozen, I can't even see anything. But I'm going to take you guys down to the road here, and we're going to test the microphones on these, the 5 mics on these XM4s, to see how well they do with sound suppression, especially when it gets noisy compared to being quiet. Right now it's kind of quiet, but as cars come by, like right now in a second, you can hear over the sound sample how these things handle noise suppression and how the quality of the sound deteriorates or not.
Based on my memory of the XM3s, these are marginally better now. I'm really glad that Sony is working on it because they used to be notorious for a lousy phone call quality. Right now, Sony calls this the precise voice pickup tech, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and it kind of works. It works pretty well. Something to take note of too, also right now it's really windy as I mentioned earlier, but the wind is still really picking up and it's catching into all the vents, it's blowing into all the vents, but at least the noise suppression algorithm is working. It's working over time, but at least it's working. You can also try to see if you, let's try to pick this up. My shoes are on really hard frozen ice right now, and can you hear that? I think it's doing pretty good in suppressing it as well. So something to note that the wind does go into the vents, and it doesn't affect the sound quality or your listeners, but it does annoy the heck out of my ears. And the other thing too is when you do get on a phone call, and prior to that, if you're listening to music with active noise cancellation on, or if you have ANC on just on in the first place, and you get a phone call, it goes into pass-through mode. So that's a nice safety feature. So nice job, Sony. I'm glad your phone call quality is getting good. Yeah, I'm just gonna head back in the house and get something hot to drink. Woo, it's cold.
Alright, so here's the companion app to the XM4, creatively called Headphones. Yes, this is Sony, they're not very good with names, so we're just gonna have to deal with that. But the app itself is pretty darn powerful once you figure out where everything is, because as you can see, it's not very colorful. It's kind of hard to navigate to because it lacks delineation between each rows. So yeah, once you figure it out though, it's all there. So this is the first main screen that you see when you turn it on. And at the top here, if you connect it to AAC, you'll see AAC, and right now it's connected to SBC. Battery level is right here. And so on the first card, you see adaptive sound control. This is when you let the headphones decide what it wants to do with noise cancellation. So if you're walking, it'll say stationary, and if you're moving around, it says transport, or if you're walking and such, it'll say walking. And also you can turn on geofencing as well. So if you're working or at home, you can tell the headphones, this is where I am, and in the future, it will figure it out based on where you're located. I tend to turn this off because as you can see, even though I'm stationary right now, it says I'm in a transport or I'm in a bus or something. So it's not very effective, but some of you may find it useful, but I tend to turn it off. There's multi-point Bluetooth connection finally. Here you can see two devices, up to two different devices, and down below, if you have media playing, you can control it directly from here. The next tab over is the fun part, and this is where I get to tweak the equalizer, the noise cancellation, and all that kind of such. But right here at the top, ambient sound control. Right now, the headphones are at maximum noise cancellation. And if I move the slider just a little bit, pass-through mode comes on. And if I tap the check mark, you can focus on conversation specifically. If I want to save battery, of course, I can turn the whole system off, but most of us will keep it on anyway. Right below that is speak to chat, and I really love this feature. It's getting more prevalent in 2021. It basically turns on pass-through mode automatically when you start talking. Sure, it has some bugs and flaws that eventually will be ironed out, but right now in the Sonys, it's pretty decent. It turns off music altogether to focus on the conversation, but you can also set the settings to be more sensitive or less sensitive, and also when the system turns off and reverts back to its original, like in 15 seconds or 1 minute like that. I wish it was less, but in this case, at least you can change the settings. And right below this is the noise cancelling optimizer. You run this so that the headphones can figure out how it wants to optimize noise cancelling based on if you're wearing glasses or earrings, or even if you're flying on a plane. If you have a different barometric pressure, it'll figure it out. That's pretty smart. And right below this is the equalizer. It's a 5-band EQ with a couple of customs and a couple of presets. And right beneath this, if you're into 360 reality audio, you can run the setup here. It'll analyze your ears and also optimize the apps necessary to maximize this capability. Now, next tab over is system. Here's where you can set things up like whether the headphones fall asleep when audio is not being played after a while. Really good thing for saving battery, and also customize the custom button here. So this is the app in a gist. It's pretty powerful. I wish it was just a little bit more attractive. So here are my top favorite things of the XM4s, and the first one of all is sound quality. On the XM3s, I thoroughly love those for the warmth and the staging. They just sounded so good, thanks partly to the analog amp as well as the tuning. And thankfully, the analog amp makes a reappearance here, and somehow, if you think things couldn't get any better, Sony managed to improve the tuning on that. They managed to squeeze more goodness out of these, for example, by giving the bass more authority now, as well as widening the staging quite a bit more. So there's now more depth and power all throughout the frequency range, and that's so good. Active noise cancellation has also taken a big jump on these headphones. There's now an improved algorithm as part of that QN1 chip that blocks out more effectively low to mid frequencies. And again, that's much better than the XM3s ever did. The other bits that I appreciate are like the looks and the fit. It's like the gaps and the tolerances have reduced. Everything has been nipped and tucked, so things just look a little bit neater, a little bit more higher quality than before. The other thing I also appreciate is with all the tech that's on board, battery life has pretty much stayed the same. So let's talk negatives, and admittedly, none of these are serious. They're just niggling things at the back of my head that I thought I would share. And the first one of all is if you're upgrading from an XM3 to the XM4, it just feels weird to me to pay up so much to get something that basically looks the same. When you open the box, you're like, yeah, I've seen this before. It's like if you previously owned a 2010 Toyota Corolla, for example, the vanilla of all vanilla cars, and one day you tell your friends, yeah, I'm gonna change up to a new one, and next day you roll up in a brand new 2010 Toyota Corolla. Yeah, what's up with that? Or if you upgraded to an iPhone 7 when previously you had an iPhone 7. Yeah, complete with thick bezels, thick body, old camera and everything. Sure, technically both of these are amazing in what they do, but to show up in 2021 with paying so much and paying the same amount of money for something that looks identical just feels weird. So that's my quandary with the XM4s. Another thing that I noticed is that the touch controls are a little bit less responsive than before. Just a little bit. It's not bad in any way, because the XM3s were known to have a little bit overly sensitive controls, because if you touched it the wrong way when you adjust the headphones, for example, commands activated. So Sony decided to fix it by going the opposite direction and basically overcompensated, and now things are a little bit less responsive. So some commands require 2 to 3 times more work before they actually get going. So yeah, back to the drawing board, Sony. Well, let's put it this way. Sony played it safe with this one definitely, but made changes where it mattered to bring it up to date and also back to the top of the heap. Sure, there are some things I wish they had, like water resistance or better design, for example, but I can't help but recommend these because they sound so good. The active noise cancellation is so effective and the feature set is nice and tight. Now, one thing you want to think about if you're seriously considering the XM4 as your next headphone is you want to be aware that the landscape today is way more saturated than it was back when the XM3s first came out in August 2019 or something. It's way more saturated now, so that means it's good for us consumers, because back then when it first launched, it was exclusive, it was brand new, and it was all alone, and it could stand to charge the same price for the longest time. But today, if you are interested in the XM4 and you don't want to pay $350, I don't, just wait a month or two. So with all that said, I want to give the WH-1000XM4 a gear up score of 8.3 out of 10. And this week we're introducing these new 5 categories. I'm going to move aside a little bit. These new 5 categories help me figure out my final score, so it helps you figure out how I got there in the looks department, build quality, feature set, sound quality, and value for money. And if you have any questions of how I got to these things and how I got to these scores individually, you can comment and ask me down below. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and I hope you come back next Friday for a new one. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel, because if you like the stuff that I do, if you like to see more content like this, you know what to do. Just mash and kill the button down below. And even if you don't, just do it anyway, because you know you want to click it. Yep, just click it. And also remember to visit my Patreon page down here where you can buy me a cup of coffee or tea or something, and also get your name shouted out here like Barbecue Jones did. And also remember to thumbs up if you like this video, and comment nicely down below. And thumbs down. Thumbs down to haters of bruised fruits. You know, when we have a bowl of fruits, at the bottom there's always a few that's left behind that's bruised and all dinged up that no one touches. You and I are guilty of it. No one touches, and they end up in the trash. Think about this. It's kind of a lousy thing to do, to deny one's existence. The fruit gave up its life. Its only sole purpose is to feed us, and we ignored it just because it was a little bit bruised. So thumbs down to bruised fruit neglectors like us, you and I. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel dirty just thinking about it. I think I'm gonna go to church and do some confessing. But anyways, you guys have a good weekend. I love you guys so much. Remember to do something kind and loving for somebody, and I'll see you the next time. This is Aaron signing out.